Hello, hello, hello. Let me just change this. Details, customization, details. Thumbnail, let's change the thumbnail. Change to that one. Save. Boopity boopity boop. And copy. Hello. Ooh, 3 viewers, cool. Nice, hello. This isn't updating. Interesting. Hopefully that updates soon. I can see, let's get me some more light. Get some more light in this. Here and there. Oh, no, let's try to. Okay, I'm gonna refresh this and see what happens. Oh, what have I got? Hello, whoever's watching. I don't see you in chat, but welcome. So if you were here last week, I started this painting where I decided to just have fun and experiment with painting a fairly realistic version of this lichen, but doing so with some very bright colors and switching this beard lichen, there's two kinds of beard lichen here, and switching them to more of these pink shades rather than the green, blue-green they are in real life. Partially because these Usnea, the beard lichen, if you treat them a certain way, you can make them into this hot pink dye, which is kind of a neat thing. I haven't done it myself, but very interesting. So there's some logic to the choice of color here, but also sometimes I just want to do something that's a little bit different on these streams. Hi Stephen, how are you? I'm working on this little painting from last week. I walked over a marathon distance, took 8 hours. Wow, that's impressive. I don't think I can walk that long anymore. Back in the day, so my mom's a big walker, and back in the day, I had at least the ability to join her from time to time on these crazy walks, but not in a long, long while. Pretty good for 68. Indeed. I mean, that's pretty good just generally. I'm 35 and I don't think I could do that. Pretty sure my legs would give out. Start of May, a long walk was 8 miles. Yeah, so 8 miles I can probably do. On a good day. I'm not sure I could do that today, but on a good day I can manage that. Sorry, my face keeps coming into this frame, which is also probably why my neck hurts, because that's a bad position for my neck. So let's rearrange where my neck goes to make sure I'm not blocking your view. Between the actual and the rendered lichen, yes. Well, that is the fun fun part of today's little exercise. Although these Usnea, the beard lichens, you can treat them, I think it's with lye, to make a very hot pink dye that's very much more this color than that. Just fascinating. Hi, Mom. Do you always use, or do you also sometimes use pictures? I try to use real references where I can. I'm actually running a plein air ink and watercolor class for my Patreon supporters right now that's just about to start. It was supposed to start last week, but chronic health has gotten in the way of my desired start date. I try to paint from life because when you paint from a photo, you're already missing some information, right? Some decisions have already been made for you. It's an art form of its own. Now, that being said, sometimes I have a commission or a subject that I want to paint that for whatever reason I can't get a physical reference for. Also, like moving subjects, like if I was painting an animal, but also if I'm painting something out of season, or there's a lot of reasons why I can't necessarily get every real reference that I might want to, in which case I try to use more than one photo. I don't personally, for myself, see the point of taking one photo and just replicating it in paint. That just seems like, well, that artwork was already the photo. It's a good practice at some point, and I've definitely done that in the past, but at this point, I'm more interested in creating something new with my paintings. So if I'm using photos, generally I'll have multiple photos, and I'll be combining them in some way. That also helps me see different angles of a subject and make decisions about how I want to show that subject rather than how I want to copy the photo, if that makes sense. So yes, I do use photo references, but it's not my preference, and I'm kind of fussy about them. Are you using some fugitive colors? Yes, I'm using Bright Opera from Shinhan, which is Shinhan or Magello? Magello. Bright Opera from Magello Mission Gold, and it is very, very fugitive. This is a sketch that will go in a drawer or in a sketchbook. Like, it's just on a loose paper because I'm kind of expecting to send it to someone. But it's a sketch. It's not meant to be framed on the wall. It's just me experimenting with stuff. And so yes, I am painting with, among other things, Opera Rose, which has a fluorescent dye in it. So this is not, if you put this on the wall, it will fade over time. thank you for joining. Yes, I know these streams are a little bit late in Europe. I should probably move to streaming earlier, especially because I tend to start something else and then get caught up in whatever I'm working on, so then I don't even start frequently when I intend to start, but like an hour later. Nonetheless, these are a casual stream on Fridays. I stream most Fridays. I try not to make too many promises about it, but I remember when I was first learning about colors in more depth almost a decade ago, I made a color wheel with Prismas and used a couple of their least light-fast colors. Quite a difference after a few months. Yes, so I do have a few things that have faded. Interestingly, not so much paint or even pencils as I got some craft paper that I had done like tonal studies on, and I framed it, and then when I pulled it out of its frame, you could really see the difference between the darker section of the paper that was covered by the frame versus the lighter section that had gotten sun. So it absolutely is a difference. I waffle back and forth about how much I personally care. I mean, I have some definitely not light fast paintings by other people hanging in my house, and they don't bother me at all, and yes, they have faded and they'll fade more, and okay, yes, and they're still nice, and again, they can be touched up. If I decide that they need some attention, then I'll go speak to the artist again. So I waffle back and forth a little bit about how much I personally care, but when I'm selling to people, I do care about how light fast my paintings are. Because I'm a watercolor artist, honestly, I feel like there's a lot in the art world that's sold that, you know, there's a lot of artists who do not care very much. And when it comes to all kinds of media, it's just not a thing that's very discussed in acrylics and mixed media and what have you. And there's just this acceptance that you use materials and art is ephemeral. But with watercolor in particular, there's just this belief that watercolor is ephemeral. And it's not. If you use light fast pigment, I can speak. If you use light fast pigments, but it's also just not something that, you know, I'm terribly interested in arguing with people. Like, it's just easier for me to just be able to say that no, my artwork won't fade. So for the artwork I make to sell, I tend to be pretty picky about which pigments go into my palette. This is a palette that I mixed up. I made this, poured out these colors specifically because these are paints that I had that I wasn't using very much. So there's a bunch of stuff in here that is either not very light fast or has other issues with it. Or it's just uncommon, rare pigments. So I'm using lots of bright opera here. It's not the only, it's probably like the least light fast, the most fugitive thing here, but I also have synthetic indigo PB66, which is not particularly light fast. PR88, Thio Indigo Violet, is moderately light fast. There's a Permanent Carmine by Renaissance, which is So there's a few things in here that are, you know, not the most. There's PG8s. There's a few things in here that are not particularly light fast, and I'm using them anyway because I don't care. Because this is a sketch. Yeah, it really depends on what your goal is, right? Like, if you are going to be hanging something and you want it to hang in a museum or somebody's house, you want it to be exposed to light for the next 100 years, then it matters. And I'm not entirely convinced that anything I paint is likely to be used in that way, and if it does, how much I care if it changes colors a little bit. But there's what I care and then what I care about being able to tell my customers, right? So people who are buying art might want to know that their artwork will last. In fact, I can tell you for sure that in the like medium market, like not cheap art, but medium market probably is where people care most. Like if you get into the really cutting edge, you know, art fair market, where you have people selling bananas taped to a wall and then eating the banana during the show, then clearly in that market, light fastness is kind of irrelevant. Like, surely this lasts longer than a banana that somebody ate. That's not the market that I sell in the part of the art world that I run around in. It has mattered, you know. People, normal people who want to spend a few $100s on something nice for their house, that's a big expense for them, and whether or not it's actually going to be, you know, an investment, is debatable, but people like believing that they're buying artwork that they will want to have long term, that they'll want to pass on to their children. So it makes sense to be able to guarantee. I mean, I've decided it makes sense for me to be able to guarantee that, you know, yeah, if you buy this, it's still going to look the same. For stuff that's in sketchbooks, I don't care. Now the thing is, most of my stuff in sketchbooks is still sketched with light fast colors because I use the paints that, you know, that I've set up, and I have not generally set up palettes that are full of non-light fast colors because you know, sometimes I'm sketching and sometimes I'm painting things for sale, and so sometimes it does matter. And so this was sort of a branching out, and I'm enjoying using this palette, but it contains a whole bunch of things that wouldn't usually make it into my paintings. I remember at an art prize awarded for 3 guys sitting and drinking beer decades ago. That stuff always makes me think of the Murphy Brown where the art snobs were fawning over a non-smoking sign. Yeah, I've recently gained, I think a little bit more appreciation for some of the more out there artwork, but there's always going to be the absolutely ridiculous examples of like somebody selling blank canvases or a banana taped to a wall, or etc. And without disparaging other people's art, I'm personally more interested in art that isn't showcases skill as well as ideas. I mean, ideas are interesting and all, but I feel like first of all you can communicate some much better ideas, much more interesting ideas, if you have a more comprehensive language, shall we say. So, I'm never going to be the shock and awe artist who's just making points about, how little work I can do, or Hey, Joy. You're Schrodinger's viewer here and not here at the same time, but I love genuine indigo. I might be not light fast myself. Well, you know what? I might be made of something that doesn't survive heat, so we all have our things. And yes, indigo is lovely. Love indigo. are you, Joy? I've missed you. Ah. I feel like I'm just making a mess in that area, so maybe I'll just stop picking around there. I think this is actually almost done. So that's fun. Kind of a wildly short stream. Unless I start something else. I have a cuddle cat who's dissuading that I think I've decided that winters aren't great for my health generally. Maybe we can trade, Joy. Summers are not great for my health. I used to struggle with winters. Winter is no longer a problem. Summer, on the other hand, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I cannot handle temperatures over, honestly, it's ridiculous. It's like over 22 degrees Celsius. Actually, can I have permanent shoulder seasons? I mean, as long as I can get all the winters. Like, shoulder seasons would be great as well. I don't mind shoulder seasons so long as they're like proper shoulder seasons. There's just 4 months a year where I live where it's bad. Like I'm a gardener. I wish I could be going outside all the time, but I can't. I could do Kiwi winter year round though. Pretty sure. Pretty sure. climate change. We have it mild, despite my issues. I mean, climate change is absolutely an issue, particularly in that, like, looking at where I would have to go in order to not have temperature. Like, it used to be that a lot of Europe would have been better for my can't handle extreme heat, and that's not really the case anymore. But even ignoring climate change, I can't do the climate I'm in without just hiding in air conditioning for 4 months out of the year, which is not okay. So, you know, this year has been interesting. Because any kind of heat, and I melt. I overheat. I stop being able, like, I get dizzy. I can't walk in a straight line. I just sore all over. Not like, my muscles might tense up if it's cold, although I can just bundle up, and that seems to be more than enough. But when it's hot, whew, I get nauseous, I get dizzy, I can't think straight. But nowhere on Earth, really. Well, not nowhere on Earth, but there's very few places that never go over, like, 23 degrees Celsius. And I'm not sure I want to live in those places. Short days affect mood. Well, yeah. Yeah, they do. New Zealand sounds delightful. It's really such a shame that you're all the way over there. Is it affecting blood flow to the head? No. I'm not sure if I have mild POTS or not, but I think what it actually is multiple sclerosis. I think I have MS. And so I've had a unspecified autoimmune that, has been on my chart as, like, I don't know, it's some kind of autoimmune for years now, as you know. And I've never, I've had plenty of blood work, but I've never had any kind of neurological testing, because both I and my doctors for the longest time thought that MS didn't fit. And I don't know what it was that convinced us that MS didn't fit. I didn't until recently have signs that particularly pointed to MS, other than, well, maybe it's lupus, but it's not conclusively lupus. At this point, it looks like it's pretty clearly MS, and so what it is it's demyelination of my peripheral neurons and my brain neurons. So when I overheat, the electrical impulses in my body don't work as well. And it explains everything that happens when I'm overheated. It also explains a lot of the coming and going other symptoms that I have. Yeah. Which really sucks. I really don't The fact that it's, you know, it's something about like, oh, this is neurological, this is brain stuff, it really deeply upsetting. You know, like I can deal with my legs are not working, that's great, that's fine. But if it's my brain, you know, that just feels more personal. And it's also deeply scary looking at things like, you're close with Sterling as well, right? So Sterling, likewise, has, I mean, she's slightly further along on diagnosis, although probably I'll get there first, just because she's scared of going to a neurologist and doesn't have healthcare. But Sterling's lost, she's numb and tingly on her fingertips, so she can't paint anymore. So the other super scary thing about MS is like, oh gosh, well, I mean, so far I've been spared any lesions that affect my vision, my hands. But, you know, they're not uncommon. But the good news is, there is good news. There is a silver lining. If this is MS, then MS it's not curable currently. It is very treatable to the point of like modern MS treatments are, for a lot of people, they just sort of stall the disease. It brings relapses down to nearly a standstill. There's even some progress on drugs that help with remyelination, so you can see some gradual improvement. It seems like in the next several years, you know, they'll get somewhere with the remyelination side so that it's actually more reversible. So as there's a lot of scary downsides to, oh shit, this looks like MS, but it's not all scary downsides, and I'm trying to keep positive. Why did we do this? See. Sorry, you're hidden behind a little your message is partially hidden behind a little icon. Can you type something else out real quick, just so I can read your whole message? Because the UI here is. Why did we do this? The MS aren't great. Look, having treatments is great. Your ME, right? You have chronic fatigue, whatever the other word for it is. Right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I'm tired all the time too, but I'm tired all the time with like other fun stuff that just pops up sometimes. And stays for, sometimes it's just a day. Sometimes things come and go and stay for months, and sometimes they never go away. Which is, you know, a lot of autoimmune diseases. So a lot of this is like, well, it wasn't terribly specific. I had symptoms that could be MS, but didn't specifically point to MS, and I think maybe it was just the fact that I didn't have any of the most common markers that would point to it. So, you know, they're not going to order an MRI or a lumbar puncture if there's not any evidence that points directly to neurological. But the temperature sensitivity is very telling. Like, that's right down to the temperatures it occurs at and what the symptoms are. Myalgic encephalitis, yeah. Chronic fatigue is just one of the many symptoms, which is one reason we don't like the name. ME actually means brainstem inflammation and muscle pain. Sorry, yes. Also a bad name for it, but there you are. Other than fatigue, what are your symptoms like? And feel free to stop me at any point. I'm being nosy and curious. I go back and forth about how much I bother my doctors about, you know, okay, I don't like I want a real diagnosis here. Can we keep looking? And then, you know, and then I get tired of it and stop bothering them for a while, and then new stuff pops up. So new stuff pops up is the, my temperature sensitivity has massively flared up this year. Like if I try to turn back, it's like, okay, I have had some kind of temperature sensitivity for probably about 4 or 5 years. And I didn't, you know, I thought it was more related to sun or exertion. Last year it was like no heat really seems to play a factor, and then this year it's just been like very clearly I just can't handle any kind of like my body temperature going up. So yes, exertion will cause my body temperature to go up because I'm less great at regulating sweating than I used to be, which is another fun thing. Yeah, this is just a delightful conversation. Cognitive failure, orthostatic intolerance, like pause, digestive issues, immune issues, some sort of pain, headaches, and muscle pain being common. Yes, okay, yeah, that, right, so that is similar to a lot of my stuff. Much of which my doctor filed under fibromyalgia, which I was never particularly pleased with. Like, okay, that's cool, but give me a real explanation. When chronic illness people get together, right? Right? And we have a way of getting together. I think it's art communities do tend to attract us. Okay. Enjoy your phone call. Bye. My lack of light fastness has struck. All right. Goodbye, fugitive joy. Oh, fun. And more so as I age, I thought that was just aging, but now you've got me thinking. I am less sensitive to cold in the past, like gradually in the past, I'd say 8 years or so. I've gotten like quite noticeably less sensitive to cold than I was previously. And in the past couple of years, I've gotten very, very sensitive to heat from just not being very sensitive to heat. Like, I didn't enjoy 30-degree days, but I could go out and work in them and I would get sweaty and sticky and it would be unpleasant, but those were the effects, right? As long as I kept hydrated. Like, yeah, if you're out in the heat and the sun and you don't drink water, you're gonna get dehydrated, but I didn't have any particular issues with heat until the past few years. And it really only became clearly a heat issue last year and only became like really, really a problem this year, like the past few months. So I'm very glad that I don't have as much sensitivity to cold as I once did, because it would really suck to only have, you know, a 5-degree range that I could existed. I'm fine with winter now. But okay, I'm gonna call this little sketch done, but I can chat for a while. Cold makes me tense up and gives me headaches, while heat makes me something I thought was mild heat stroke that also gives me headaches. Cold makes me tense up, does not give me headaches. Cold does make me tense up, but it is, you know, if my body gets cold. So I can breathe cold air, and I think I had a circulation issue when I was skinny and not getting enough something, where I would, get chilled very quickly, and then my muscles would tense up. And then I learned to bundle up, my circulation got better, I gained a little padding, something. Cold isn't so much an issue anymore. At all, really. Heat has become a huge issue, and yeah, it is like heat stroke, but sort of extreme. I've been getting migraines in heat since I was a little kid. So in the past few years, I've gotten migraines in heat. But when it started, it seemed to be very tied to physical exertion in heat. So I thought it was tied to sun or physical exertion, and maybe, but I think it's really just heat. Like, it's very clear now that, I can be sitting doing nothing, but if I go into a sauna, I tried this a few weeks ago, that, the residencies I've gone to in the past couple of years, all of them, there's a thing about saunas. Oh, go hang out in the sauna, and I'd been avoiding them. Even last year I was avoiding them, and I didn't entirely know why I was avoiding them, but like just the thought of going into a sauna was like, oh gosh, no. But I did have some tight muscles at one point up north, and I thought, okay, well, in the past I have enjoyed saunas. I can go into a sauna and it'll relax my muscles. And, even though I'm clearly, by this point I knew that I was reacting to heat, but maybe, this is different. Maybe if it's like a really, quite a bit of heat and it's just going to relax my muscles, I'm not going to be doing any exercise or anything in there, just letting my muscles relax. And I spent 2 minutes in a sauna, and it makes me nauseous, gives me a headache, I get flushed and bloodshot and dizzy, confused, my brain stops working, I can't walk in a straight line. Well, I mean, if it's lifelong for you, I'm related to you, maybe I don't know, maybe that's good news or maybe that's terrible news. Timing-wise, the other thing is, I'm 35, which puts me right at, oh yeah, this is when MS hits, is 20 to 40 women. So yeah, I got the first sort of signs 5 years ago. Anyway, that's my current theory, but I need to see a neurologist. And so the past little while has been just deciding every day, okay, so today's little flare-up symptoms are these, do these justify going to the ER? Because if I get a doctor's referral, which I will, that takes 6 months for them, 6 months plus for them to get you to a neurologist, versus if you walk into the ER with neurological symptoms, you get a neurologist right away. So it's just been a question of every day is today the day that justifies, like, I don't know, I tend to not to underestimate how bad my symptoms are. Is today the day that if I go to the ER, I'll get a neurologist's attention? Or will I just sit there for 8 hours? Like, I'm fine with the sit there for 8 hours if at the end of the 8 hours I get a neurologist. I don't want to sit there for 8 hours to be given a Tylenol. All right, I think I am actually done here. Not quite sure what I'm gonna do with this painting, but might get sent to someone. One of you might get Happy Mail. Oh, actually, I do want to show some things. Wait, one moment. Before I log off. I have some fun stuff listed on my website now. Little stickers. So these ones actually have a clear background. The backing is white, but the background is clear. Sorry. Here we go. And on a white background, we've got little mushroomies. Little mushroomies. I got little stickers. Those are on my website now. Along with all kinds of original work and prints. Hooray! Stuff available on my website so that I can pay for my life. Okay, advertisement over.